Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast. It's Monday. Means we're here with another edition of the MMA Weekend Recap. Dominic, I think we need to recap just this weekend for the Joes as well. It's been a few days since we've talked, and a lot's happened. We made our first guest appearance on the Barely Critical Movie Review podcast, reviewing the Kevin James Classic. Here Comes the Boom. I had a great time.
Had a blast
on there. Yeah, I mean, it was just. I'm good friends with those guys, anyways. I know that was like the first time Dominic really got to hang out with them, but that couldn't have went any better.
Oh yeah, it felt like we were all in the same room together.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So make sure to go check out that. You can look them up: YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Just look at Barely Critical Movie Review podcast. We also had our own episode come out on Friday. We had an episode reach almost 200 views. Our recap from last Monday, right? That was the Giga Chikadze. Yeah, it appears Giga Chikadze might be more of a star nationally than we gave him credit for, because that's our second most viewed episode of all time now, Dominic.
Yeah.
So
shout out to the Joey community. Am I right? I mean, geesh.
I know everybody's coming out of nowhere.
Come on, trickle in, baby.
It's never too late to get on this train, baby.
Yeah.
So Dominic, with all that being said, how was your weekend? Did you get to watch any football?
I did. Of course, we talked about this on Friday. Our Buckeyes beat Minnesota in an absolutely barn burner of a game, by the way, 45-31. So the Buckeyes are victorious. We saw a lot. I think there were 8 top 25 teams that got beat. I watched the Georgia-Clemson game. Had fun watching that with some friends because it segued perfectly after the fights, because the fights were early on Saturday. So it was a good weekend. Hung out with some friends, watched some football, watched some fights. And I know that you did the same, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was on the porch, ladies and gentlemen, we put a TV out there.
Oh, boy.
Which, everybody that kept showing up yesterday was like, who thought of this? This was a genius idea. Yeah. And then I'm sitting there all right, let's calm down. This isn't the first – we ain't the first people to put a TV on a porch, or in a front yard.
Right.
So, I got to watch football literally from we started watching College Game Day at 9 a.m.
Oh, isn't that the best?
I was going until the end of – basically halftime of the BYU Arizona game, which was midnight or so.
Yeah.
So I was out there for 15 hours. It was a grind. I was so exhausted by the end, but that's when we do it. That's why we do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of defensive football is what I got to watch yesterday. Started the day off with Penn State, Wisconsin. That was a very defensive focused game. And as you mentioned, that late game, Clemson, Georgia.
Into 3.
Georgia making a statement in that game. Clemson looking a little rough, not going to lie.
Yeah.
Another team that was looking a little rough, even though they put up a lot of points, Oklahoma was ranked number 2. I'm not a big fan of their quarterback. He's got a lot of talent, but I watched QB1. That dude's an asshole. So watching him struggle a little bit brought a tear to my eye. But anyways,
nice.
Shout out Buckeyes, big win on
OH.
Thursday. IO. And with that, we're going to transition into our fight announcements, because that's what you all are here to listen to. UFC 268 is stacking up to be potentially one of the most stacked cards of all time. I feel like Dominic's saying that. And and we got 2 additions to this card, and they're both, not going to be the card or fights that probably get put on a main card or anything like that. But, I mean, to fill out your prelims, holy shit.
Yeah.
You start with 2 names that might not jump off the page to you guys: Alex Pereira and Andreas Michalidis. The reason why this fight is so important is this: Alex Pereira is currently the Glory Kickboxing middleweight champion. I believe he's middleweight champion. He is finally making the full transition over to MMA. Fun fact, he's also the only guy to ever knock out current UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya in their kickboxing bout. So Pereira comes in here with a lot of hype, a lot of pedigree, and it's very obvious that the UFC believes in him already because they signed him straight away.
Yes.
This guy doesn't have to go prove it on the circuit. UFC's like, nope, you're done with glory. Come on over. So Dominic, what do you think of that one? And I guess actually I'll set up the other one too, and we can just group them together. Also, number 14 ranked Shane Burgos and Billy Quarantillo go head to head. These are two guys that have been like our boys, you know?
Yeah.
So you hate to see family fight like that, you know. But man, when this fight got announced, I was shocked. I really wasn't sure Billy was going to get top 15.
Yeah.
But now that the fight's been announced,
I
mean, fireworks, am I right?
I mean, the fact that that's actually on UFC 268, I didn't even fathom that when I saw the fight announcement. I just saw Burgos Quarantillo, didn't even look at the date. But the fact that it's on there, that's insane, man. But so to start with Alex Pereira versus Andreas Michalidis, it's a big deal, right? Because he's a very seasoned, experienced professional kickboxer who's had a ton of accolades, a lot of success, transitioning directly into the biggest MMA promotion in the world. Says a lot about the potential talent that we're going to see here. Can he put it all together in a well-rounded MMA skill set? That remains to be seen, obviously, so we'll find out at UFC 268. But it is nice to get some fresh blood in that middleweight division, especially someone that has a bit of a past with Israel Adesanya. Burgos Quarantillo, come on, man. Come on. This is violence guaranteed. I'm not going to say it's a certified banger. I kind of got pooped on by Noah for Friday for saying it twice in like 2 minutes, so I won't say that. But this is everything that you would like as a fight fan. Two dudes that are going to go in there, put on a show. The fans love both of these guys. There's big implications for both in terms of staying in or getting in to the top 15. It's going to be Quarantillo's biggest test by far of his career. And for Burgos, can he rebound from a devastating knockout loss to Edson Barboza? That's going to be very violent.
Yes, I appreciate you switching up your vocabulary for that one. I could tell you were struggling a little bit.
Yeah,
I saw a pause where you would normally just go certified banger, and I was like, I appreciate it, Dom. I appreciate your effort on here.
Our first set of merch, my part is going to definitely have certified banger. We're going to have merch for both people. I'm going to have one that says
certified banger 2.0, insert fighter name 2.0. The classics.
Yes.
Yeah, so UFC 268 from top to bottom. I mean, this is always me and our friends. We always make fun of Dom for. We always say every card that comes out, Dominic goes, "This is the most stacked card in UFC history." And truthfully, like I can say this, now that we're not with our friends, so I can tell the truth. I've definitely a lot of times Dominic said it. I've been right there with him. The UFC does a good job of kind of just continuing to raise the bar, I would say.
Yeah.
Now has every
go ahead, sorry.
Has every card necessarily delivered to be the best card of all time? No, and those are the ones that kind of end up being forgotten when we think about it. But UFC 268 on paper is really stacking up to be just a fantastic card filled with really good fights from top to bottom, a lot of big names, and that's what you really want. I mean, at the end of the day, like I always say, as long as there's good fights, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit that matters too, in order to get us excited to buy it, to promote it, to to sit there, to talk to our friends about it. You want to have those names on there that you just know, like Shane Burgos. You can tell your buddies, hey, check out that Shane Burgos fight because he's not going to let you down.
100%.
But did you have something you wanted to say before we?
I was just going to say, in terms of like when we say cards are stacked and whatnot, this year it does feel like most of the pay-per-views have been absolutely insane, man. I mean, this is going to be like the third or fourth card with 3 title fights in 1 year. Like, it just feels like they were really coming back from 2020 with fans again, and they were trying to put on as many big pay-per-views as possible. So this year just feels like more of an outlier than the rest is all I was going to say. I
agree, but I mean, we even back since we've been watching together, Dominic, I think we have said that a lot. I just think it's a product of the UFC just continuing to out-deliver or outperform themselves, whatever. Hopefully those fighters deliver. That's all that matters.
Right.
November 20th, 2 weeks later. This is a fun one. This was another surprising one, I think.
Yeah, it was.
In the welterweight division, number 7, Michael Chiesa. Number 13, Sean Brady. Now, Dominic, Sean Brady is supposed to fight Kevin Lee, who we just saw lost to Daniel Rodriguez in his re-debut into the welterweight division.
Yep.
Sean Brady is supposed to be the one to welcome him there, not able to do so. Now gets a better matchup in terms of rankings, in terms of what it could do for his career at this point. And Michael Chiesa, who is coming off of essentially in some ways a kind of title-ish eliminator loss to Vicente Luque, at least like a contender-pretender type fight. So Chiesa is still at the top of the heap here at welterweight. Do you like this fight? Do you think that this is a good matchmaking, or do you feel like this might be a little bit too much too soon for the young Sean Brady?
For those that like grappling, this is the fight for you here, because obviously we know Chiesa's game plan is to come out, smother you, look for the finish on the ground, or just grind out a decision. For Brady, a guy that has shown, he's undefeated, right? A flawless record, and he's shown time and time again he gets better when he goes in there, but this is a big jump. To go from a scheduled bout with Kevin Lee, who, by the way, is a great grappler in his own right, but we've seen what has come of him more recently compared to Michael Chiesa. Chiesa obviously coming off the loss to Luque, but before that was undefeated at this new weight class for him at 170 pounds. I think this is a huge jump for Brady, but one that stylistically can benefit him in certain aspects. And sometimes when you see two grapplers that are so good, they cancel each other out and they stay on the feet. So who's going to have the better of the striking between the two? We know Chiesa is very long and rangy. Sean Brady, short, stocky, very strong. There's a lot of very fun intangibles and things to discuss come November 20th when we break down this fight. I like it. I really do. It was random. I wasn't expecting it, but I do like it.
So there's no I'm not trying to set you up here. I'm just generally curious because Sean Brady is ranked and, he should be kind of moving up here. But at the same time, this is by far his biggest test. Who was his previous opponent before this?
Oh, gosh. I can look real quick as you discuss.
Because I think it's kind of telling that we're not really sure off the top of our heads. And because of that, I just feel like there's a chance that this is a little too fast, too soon for Sean Brady. The welterweight division is definitely in need of some fresh blood at the top. So maybe that's a reason why you're seeing this kind of matchmaking here. And Chiesa is like one of those guys that's kind of hanging around the middle of the pack without really advancing too much. So they're kind of maybe just trying to have him play gatekeeper here. But Sean Brady's the biggest prospect in the division. I feel like it could be just a little detrimental to what the UFC would like to do by feeding him to perhaps Chiesa, who might be just far more advanced.
Yeah, so his last fight was a submission victory over Jake Matthews. So Brady's 4-0 in the UFC, his fifth fight, and he's getting catapulted into top-ranked Michael Chiesa here in this one. So
this is his first fight against a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
It's number 7.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's I'm not huge on the matchmaking, but Sean Brady has looked incredible. And if he goes in,
show the belief that the UFC has in him, maybe.
I think that's what you're seeing here for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think that the UFC respects the talent of Michael Chiesa. The guy's on their broadcast and everything.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of respect there. So much so that I think he is being given the Rafael dos Anjos kind of role here of seeing if Sean Brady's truly, the talent that they want to believe he is. It's just the UFC, they can't see into the future,
Right.
We're going to be talking about a guy in a little bit who they thought was ready for the title, and he might not even been ready for top 5 competition yet.
Yep.
So sometimes they overestimate where guys are and push them a little too soon. Doesn't happen as often as I think people might criticize them for, but it does happen. And I just don't want to see that with Sean Brady because I think he's got a lot of talent and could be a pretty big deal for him. Also, by the way, to kind of on the lighter side, the battle of stomach tattoos. Here.
Yeah.
Very funny how Michael Chiesa has a tattoo of a tiger on his stomach, while Sean Brady has a tattoo of a man giving a lion a guillotine, I believe. So it was kind of funny when I thought it was a tiger at first. That would have been hilarious, like giving a tiger a guillotine. But turns out it's a lion. So whatever. The cat family, they're all in there. But yeah, it's good. It should be a good fight though.
100%.
So moving on from our fight announcements, let's get back into the circus, Dom. Let's put on our big red noses. We can't escape it. The celebrity boxing, but MMA fighters getting involved. I mean, it's not even celebrity boxing. I mean, this is an MMA fighter going up against a boxer. So
yeah.
In some ways, some would say that this is the modern day Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, Dom.
Oh, boy.
So this is happening on September 11th, as we've mentioned previously. So next Saturday, originally headliner Oscar De La Hoya going up against Vitor Belfort, the former UFC light heavyweight champion. However, Oscar De La Hoya has tested positive for COVID-19. He's being pulled from that card. In steps the nearly 60-year-old Evander Holyfield, the former heavyweight boxing champion. So there's a lot to go into here, because not only is this kind of gross, because why is Evander Holyfield being cleared to fight
right
as a nearly 60-year-old man who, to be clear, I'm pretty sure was not given a license to fight like 15 years ago, because they said that he was too far past, his skills had diminished too much. 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's kind of gross. Also, there's an element to this, Dominic. I don't know if you've heard about this. I just happened to read it on Twitter, where Evander Holyfield had been so he was supposed to box somebody for Triller over the summer at some point, and that card fell through. So he was still contractually obligated to fight from Triller, but they were trying to kind of like just move on from him.
Yeah.
So he's suing. He was suing them.
Oh.
So that's the reason why he gets put in here, is because Triller was like, well, he's suing us. We got to give him a fight. And Oscar De La Hoya tests positive. They're like, well, here you go. Fight Vitor Belfort. So, again, what do I expect from this? Nothing. I expect nothing from this. This is going to be bullshit. Look, I love Vitor Belfort and what he's done for MMA, and hopefully he gets paid very well for this. Also in your co-main event, Anderson Silva, Tito Ortiz. Like seeing those guys hopefully get a payday, but eventually it's going to come down to at what cost.
Yeah.
And this is just, there's just so much chaos around Triller and their kind of entry into fight promotion. It doesn't seem like a very sustainable business model. It doesn't seem very trustworthy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not accusing them of anything, just simply saying that, like, just a lot of weird stuff that's coming out of there. So these guys, in some ways, I don't know if I were them, if I would make the decision to, no matter how much they're willing to pay, to really trust that they would hold up that end of the deal. But Dominic, what are your thoughts here? I mean, I don't expect you to think much different.
Yeah, I dislike this very much. And, it comes down to it where we're seeing all of these older veterans that have done so much in their respective areas of the fight game, at least in the latter four. I don't know what the rest of the card looks like, and I don't really give a shit what it looks like. But the co-main event and main event, four guys that have been there, done that in their respective sports, done so much for their sports. You just only hope that something as crazy like a circus show like this that Triller's putting on, that nobody gets hurt, right? You don't want to see that happen just for the sake of putting on some crazy event that I'm sure will not sell well at all. I mean, it's just all very weird. Even if Oscar were to stay on the card and fight Vitor, that fight was very random and weird in its own right. So we'll see what happens, man. Are we going to have like takeaways from this card? No, like nowhere compared to what we did for the Jake Paul Tyron Woodley fight. And even then, we only had so much to say outside of our distaste for all of this wacky stuff. It's a weird time in combat sports right now. So unfortunately, things like this just have to happen.
Wow. that was that was the perfect way to cap off this part of the show. I think I don't think I could say anything else.
Perfect.
Let's get into the UFC card that happened Saturday night. And you know what? Top to bottom, great card.
Yes, it was stellar.
Yeah, on paper, I was kind of like, oh, this card's okay. I like the main event.
Yeah.
But Tom Aspinall, Paddy Pimblett, I think there were some things to really look forward to, but it was a lot of names that were, like I had mentioned on Friday, guys that were kind of, not very remarkable so far. They're fun fighters, but guys that have very mixed runs being matched up against one another, which I thought was going to lead to a lot of fun fights, and fun fights is what it led to. Let's start with that main event, though, Dom.
Oh, boy.
Derek Brunson.
He does it again, right?
Does it again. That's 5 in a row now. He gets the submission over Darren Till. Rear naked choke. Round 3, 2 minutes, 13 seconds. And this was one-way traffic. I feel like I've said that too many times before. But Derek Brunson simply was dominant here. This was, in my opinion, he's had this kind of 3-fight run that we have alluded to, of where he's kind of been counted out, Edmund Shabazian, Kevin Holland, now Darren Till. This was the most impressive of the 3, in my opinion. Not 100%. Only because Darren Till was the best opponent, I guess, of those, or the most far along of those 3, but also I think just in a performance standard, I think Derek Brunson was simply dominant here. He was strong. He forced his way into those takedowns, into the clinch. Had some nasty elbows in the clinch.
Oh, yeah.
His striking looked better than it ever has, really. I don't think his striking was holding up with Darren Till's, but he was finding ways to close that distance, and those elbows in the clinch were very effective. Darren Till's left eye was very compromised. His ground and pound was the best that it ever looked. So I'm very impressed with this performance. I wasn't expecting to come in here and, if Derek Brunson had won, be contemplating where does he fall in line for a title, but he's there again, man.
Think about it, yeah.
Yeah. So Dominic, what are your thoughts on Derek Brunson, in this fight? But more importantly, I guess, what's next for him?
Yeah, so, he looked incredible, right? You said this is a 5-fight win streak now, and this is by far the one that takes the cake. To do this against, really, it's one of the biggest wins of his career in general, in terms of, the name value of his opponent and whatnot, the styles. It is favorable in a certain extent for Derek, but on the feet, it's very much not favorable. And he went out there and did what he had to do, implemented the perfect game plan. And my biggest questions on Friday was, could Derek get Till to the ground? And if on the ground, could Till get up? / could Brunson keep him down? And that he did. Round 1 was nearly a 10-8 had Till not gotten up with a minute left and kept it on the feet. He was destroying Darren Till with ground and pound in round number 1. Round 2, essentially copy and paste, not as vicious with the ground and pound, but still held him down for the full round. Round 3, Till finds a bit of success, gives Brunson a little bit of a scare. We see Brunson, he gets wobbled on the feet. It happens in a lot of his fights. But he is able to stay composed recently, and he did the same thing here with Darren Till, landed the perfect takedown, and once he had him down, it looked like Till was just so mentally defeated and drained, and Brunson wasted no time capitalizing, locked in the rear naked choke. And now, again, 5 in a row. The last time he lost was to the current champion, Israel Adesanya. Now, is that what comes next for him? I don't know. I kind of had this, interesting viewpoint on the division when we had Cannonier beat Gastelum, so I guess I'll just kind of go over my thoughts now that Brunson has won. Again, Whitaker, Israel 2, it looks like it's going to be pushed off to 2022. Is Israel going to fight again in this year? He wants to, but now that all the cards are filling out, it looks very much like it won't happen. So now what can we do here? Do we do Cannonier Brunson, make that an official number 1 contender fight? That makes sense to me. It's 2 guys that haven't fought one another. We got a very powerful striker in Cannonier, a very dominant grappler, Derek Brunson. Give them a main event slot on a fight night. Maybe that's what you do. But either way, Brunson has now launched himself into the best spot of his career, essentially 1 away from a title fight. Maybe. We'll see how the division plays out. And really, I'm going to pose a question back to you in reverse now. On the opposite side of things, we have seen Darren Till drop 4 of his last 5 fights, Noah. Give me your thoughts on the fight, I guess, from a whole in terms of Brunson and what you saw from Till. And what do we get with Darren Till next?
Yeah, see, I think I gave most of my thoughts on the fight. But for Darren Till's side of things, this is just, I guess, more proof to what I said on Friday, that a lot of Darren Till's a lot of his, I guess, hype, a lot of his placements on cards, a lot of the respect people give Darren Till, I think, is more on his potential rather than what he's actually shown in the octagon. Some people might look at that statement and go, "You're calling him overrated." Well, maybe it is a nice way of saying that. But I do really like Darren Till, and I think he does have a lot of potential still, even after this loss. On the bright side for Darren Till, this style of fighter in Derek Brunson is kind of just a tough matchup for him. I mean,
like
going in, don't get me wrong, we thought Darren Till was going to win. But coming out of it, a stronger grappler, when I'm saying stronger than himself, Darren Till, is just a very tough matchup for him, and that showed.
Yep.
But I don't think that matchup is really in this division besides Brunson and maybe Marvin Vettori and perhaps a Luke Rockhold when he comes back. So Darren Till has still got a lot of life left in this division because I think striking-wise, he holds up with anybody in the division, including your champion, Adesanya. But also, I don't think anybody else in this division has the grappling to hold him down and deliver the damage that Derek Brunson did in this fight. Robert Whittaker took down Till, I believe, twice in their fight, and Till got right back up.
Mm-hmm.
Till's always been very good about that. If he gets taken down, he's able to just get right back up. He's so fast in this division. So, all in all, this is a tough loss to swallow. I mean, now he's 1-2 in the division.
Yeah.
So it's kind of back to the drawing board. There is plenty of matchups on the bright side because he's not fought most of this division. It's just, where does the UFC kind of think he lines up now? He's ranked number 7. I think most of us thought coming in here he was probably better than that, but I don't even know if that's the case anymore. I think number 7 might be kind of the accurate spot for him. So it's where who's lining up. It's all going to be based on when Darren Till wants to fight next too.
Yeah.
I like the idea if he wants to wait a little bit, a matchup coming up. The winner of Sean Strickland, Luke Rockhold, I think could be a really good fight for him. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 guys that whichever one gets to win would be looking to kind of headline a fight night with Darren Till. I think that would make a lot of sense. Luke Rockhold is a tough fight for Till, in my opinion, but I think him and Sean Strickland is a very interesting striking matchup because you got more of the technical striking of Darren Till, more of a finesse technical striker, while Sean Strickland, technical brawler, as I call him. So I think that could be a lot of fun and just 2 interesting characters in their own right.
Yeah.
But that's where I think Darren Till kind of falls into what's next. I mean, I don't think this sets him back as far as maybe some of the more pessimistic fans are going to say, but I definitely think that it's just more proof that he is not as far along as we want to believe he is. Yes, is he a former title challenger? Sure, but should he have been? I don't think so. I think that's become very clear that he still just has got a lot of growth that he's continuing to do. He's only 28 years old, just starting to hit his prime. So you're going to see a lot of growth out of Darren Till in the next few years, in my opinion. I mean, a lot of this is mental too, and we'll see. Hopefully, his personal side holds up. But I'm just saying, if all things hold true, if all things stay consistent, Darren Till should be a much better fighter his next time out than he was here, and he should continue to just grow at that kind of rate. But he is in a tough spot in the sense that he's already in the top half of this division. So there's no easy matchups that lie around him. But I think he's got the striking skill set to hold up with pretty much anybody else. Now for Derek Brunson, thank you. And I'm just going to give a quick note for Derek Brunson, just because you mentioned the title kind of implications here. Adesanya Whitaker should be next, and I still stand by. I think that's what's going to happen next. I think once the UFC 269 announcements came out for December,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear Adesanya will not be fighting this year, and I think that means that Cannonier is not getting a title shot against Adesanya before Whitaker.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. So hopefully Adesanya Whitaker happens early next year. I know they're holding it off because they know that that's a fight that's going to sell huge in a stadium over in New Zealand or Australia. But at the end of the day, you got to – COVID is a real thing, and you're going to just have to, play the cards where they lay or whatever the saying is. So because of that, Cannonier needs to think about what fight should he take next. And him and Brunson makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yep. Yeah.
That would clearly be kind of who's next, a number one contender fight, in my opinion. Two guys that are out of their primes at the end of their, supposed at the end of their kind of best forms here.
Yeah.
But I think it could be a lot of fun. Two very strong guys, but they use their strength in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
Cannonier using a lot of power punching, while Brunson power grappling, getting you into a clinch where he lands a lot of that diddy boxing and elbows from the clinch. So I think that could be a really fun fight. I also think there's a chance that either Cannonier or Brunson could get matched up with the winner of Costa Vittori or the loser, depending. So I think there are some matchups here for Brunson, some fresh ones at that. I definitely think this win has done a lot for him in my own eyes and probably in the community's eyes.
I agree, yeah.
I don't like that a lot of people are like, wow, I saw some comment about how the last three fights, how much Brunson was sort of counted out and what that says about, MMA fans' respect for him. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think it's a lack of respect. I think it's just simply Derek Brunson is kind of pulling, in some ways, a Jan Blachowicz here, where he is getting better after having a point in his career where he seemed so stagnant, really at the end of his prime, those ages 30 to 33 or so, where he kind of was stagnating as a fighter. He had lost to Anderson Silva, Robert Whitaker. He had really not, went to the next step, hadn't become a true title challenger. But now he's shown that he still had a lot of growth left and was able to take that next step. I don't think it's a lack of respect. I think it's just people underestimating him.
Yeah.
And he's proving us wrong step by step. So is he going to be the next Jan Blachowicz and take a title that nobody expects him to take? Time will tell. But Dominic, any final thoughts on that one?
That's all I've got, my man. Middleweight is a bit exciting at the top, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the opener of this main card.
Oh, boy.
This was my favorite fight of the main card. The main card being the fights that I watched live. So, I had to go back and watch some prelims this morning. But Paddy Pimblett making his debut here. He does get the very impressive TKO over Luigi Venramini. Round 1, 4 minutes, 25 seconds in. But, Dominic, he had to climb through some adversity to get there.
Yeah.
Tell the viewers what kind of fight we got here. And what is this fight to you if you had to go off of a hunch? Where do you think this means, for Paddy Pimblett? Impressive finish, but also, as you're going to allude to and get into here, had some holes that he exposed as well.
Yeah, so I guess he showed what all the hype was about. That's one thing. So Paddy Pimblett, obviously the former Cage Warriors champion, turned down 2 other opportunities to join the UFC in 2016, 2018. Finally felt he was ready in 2021. Came over, makes his debut against Luigi Vendramini on a primetime spot for the United Kingdom, the early card. He's on the main card. And he did face early adversity, so much so I thought he was going to get knocked out, Noah. He really was facing some heavy shots from Luigi early on, very crisp shots. And it was because he had his chin left so high, right in the air. It was an easy target for Luigi to hit. However, what I liked was that Paddy stayed so calm, so composed in those moments where you don't see these younger people. That's where they might falter at the big stage when they face that adversity. But Paddy, no. It looked like he had been there plenty of times before. And not only was he able to recover and keep from getting finished, but put on a damn clinic on the feet offensively as well. Landed a switch kicks and jumping side kicks and spinning stuff. He was doing everything on the feet. For a guy that's known primarily for his grappling, his stand-up has very much caught up with his skill set there, which makes him even more fun in terms of, matchups in the future in this division. But, man, he made a statement, inevitably gets the TKO. I thought it was a KO, personally. He landed that one shot and dropped Luigi, but I digress. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, man. What a guy, what a story. Knows how to work his way around a microphone as well. Gets on with Michael Bisping in the post-fight interview and just takes ultimate control, calling his shots, saying he's the new cash cow of the UFC. And damn, man, if you're going to back it up like that, again, maybe not with so much adversity in your next fight. Don't get caught that bad. But if you're going to do that offensively and show that skill set, man, he's only 26 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Very, very exciting to see this fella get thrown in to the already most stacked division in the UFC, the lightweight division. I'm so excited for what's to come.
Yeah, I actually, my takeaways, I was very impressed with Luigi Vendramini here.
Yeah, I didn't give enough credit to him.
Well, no, I think Paddy Pimblett's the story,
Yeah.
but for me, I was very impressed with how Luigi, ultimately he does get finished in the first round, and that's tough, but, he got caught with a heavy shot, but his striking was very impressive early on here. He even took Paddy Pimblett to the ground, which when I saw that, I will admit, I didn't think it was the smartest move to do because you had him hurt on the feet. Too many guys do that shit. Yeah. They hurt a guy up against the fence, and then they decide to just go for a takedown. I'm like, what are you doing here? I get it, score points, I guess, but as you see here, I don't think it really affected him because once the fight got back up, he was still wanting to fight. But I was very impressed with him. I look forward to seeing his next fight coming off of that. But Paddy Pimblett does come back and get a very vicious finishing sequence that was – this fight was awesome. I had so much fun. So, just a lot of fun here. And, that kind of fight, is it what you want to see from a guy that you're kind of looking to make one of your next big stars in their debut? Probably not. You'd probably rather him get, more of a one-sided win. But these are the kind of fights that could eventually just turn Paddy into a star outright if he's just always in a lot of fun scraps and, maybe does have to come back from some adversity time. But I guess for me, a lot of people here, we were even talking on Friday, we were asking the viewers, is there any shades of old Conor McGregor and kind of this come up here? Like, is this what we're looking at, or is this not as big? Is it bigger?
Sure, it seems like it.
It seems like I've been hearing about this guy forever at this point. And, overall, what I saw in there, I went, okay. It was good, I guess. I don't know. Maybe, Dominic, I feel a little bad saying that, but I didn't watch this performance and say this guy can be a future title challenger. I thought those holes were – I thought that chin up in the air was rough. I think he was very close. One or two more clean shots to being put away. Now, obviously, he's still so young. He's got a lot of improving to do. He's not even – striking's not even what he hangs his hat on. He's a very good submission specialist. So we didn't even get to see that side of him here. So maybe – once I see his full game in the UFC, I'll feel differently. But right now I go, good win. I like it. I like his personality. That adds a lot to it. But in terms of what I saw, in his debut, I wouldn't necessarily go out on a limb and say that this guy's going to be a future title holder.
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you have any response to that? Is that what was that your takeaway?
I can't take away that this guy's going to fight for a title, but in terms of comparing debuts with Conor coming in from Cage Warriors, both were champions. Connors was a lot more flawless in terms of he didn't really get touched by Brimage was his debut way back when in 2013. So definitely had the better debut. But again, I guess part of me kind of liked that we got to see Paddy go through adversity early on, because you know that moving forward, the fights are just going to keep getting harder and harder, and the adversity is always going to be there. So to see it happen in his debut was nice to a certain extent. But yes, I guess if you're him and if you're the really big Paddy fans, you're probably thinking, let's not go through that again. So again, I'm not going away from UFC Vegas 36 saying, hey, this guy's going to be the champion within 3 years. But I can damn sure say he's going to give us some very fun fights, and that he's only 26. He throws a big wrench potentially into this lightweight division in the years to come.
Let me rephrase, because I don't know if it's fair to say, talk about title implications here, but a lot of guys, when they come in, you go, wow, their ladder to the top, they're just going to keep going, like keep climbing. I think for him, this fight almost in my head made it clear that he won't have the cleanest of climbs up that ladder. So I think he can eventually get to the top for sure, but I think he will be a guy that has a couple faltering moments here or there. He might have an upset loss in his career. That's a lot to take away from simply a back and forth first round. But, that's what's going to happen when you have a guy with all this hype coming in for a debut. We've never seen him fight before, and now that we have, this is all we have to go off of. So hopefully we see him in here again soon. I would love to see him in here before the end of the year again.
Same.
And so that way he can maybe lock up that Newcomer of the Year award for the Joeys. But
there you go.
That's just my thoughts there. But overall, awesome fight. Shout out Luigi Vendramini.
Yes.
Paddy Pimblett. Great fight. Let's get into the rest. Co-main event. Tom Aspinall. Does it again in very quick fashion. Gets the TKO over Serghei Spivac. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, round number one. I didn't get what I wanted here, to be honest. I want to see Tom Aspinall be challenged a little bit. I want to see him go through some sort of adversity. I want to see Tom Aspinall's full game come into play, and he keeps just finishing these fights so quickly. I don't get to see it. His striking does look very good, though, and that proved to be the case here again. I believe it was a nasty elbow coming out of the clinch.
Oh, yeah, man.
That's that was what the finishing sequence started with. That was like an overhand elbow too, like just a nasty one. So very impressive performance. And am I going to hold anything against Aspinall for not being tested more? No.
Right.
But I'm simply saying that I will not go out on a limb and be like, I'm believing in this guy as a title. And I feel like I'm turned into, like, I don't know what I'm turned into here. Am I a crockety old man?
You're shitting on all these new guys, man.
Yeah, about Paddy Pimblett, now Tom Aspinall. I'm simply trying to keep one foot. I only put 1 foot in the door because I just haven't seen Aspinall's full game, and I don't like. It's looked really good, but he is a heavyweight at the end of the day, and these guys typically do get fights done in quick fashion.
Yeah.
I like his striking. I'd like to see more on a grappling side, see if he gets in there. Hopefully in his next fight, it looks like his next fight will probably be headlining a fight night with one of these, 5 to 10 ranked heavyweights.
Yeah.
So, Dominic, I'm going to let you take the reins here because I know you're a very big believer in Tom Aspinall's talents. Was there anything that you saw, new here or something that maybe was a big takeaway for you in this fight? And the big question, what's next?
Yeah, so I'm all war Aspinall ever since he made his debut. And now, here he is, 4 fights in the UFC, 4 finishes, all 11 of his wins in his career are by finish. And he's just very crisp, very powerful on the feet, whether it's a one punch that puts him down or it punches and bunches. But then he can pull a submission out of the hat. We saw him do that to Andrei Arlovsky. So I think this guy just has so much upside. Again, very young into the game as well. So in terms of takeaways, I mean, again, I would have liked to see him be tested a little more too, even though I'm a big fan of him. You know that there's areas we haven't seen him be tested, and he's going to have to face it eventually. So you'd rather see it earlier and then continue to see him build off of it. Mm-hmm. But when he's just putting people away, I guess you can't fault the guy. what's next for Tom Aspinall is interesting. And I've said this before when talking about him. It might have been 2 fights ago. But he's very humble and realizes where his game is now and where he wants to be before he doesn't want to just come in and be catapulted into top fives. He feels very comfortable where he is and acknowledging the fact that, yes, I want to continue to grow before I get thrown into these big fights. So, like, in a couple of his post-fight interviews, he was literally saying, like, I just want to fight someone ahead of me. So if I'm number 13, which he is currently, he said, I want to fight number 12. So if it's Blagoy Ivanov, who's number 12, and put me in there with Blagoy Ivanov. So, I do respect that to a certain extent. But when he's also finishing these guys with so much ease, you kind of can't help but wonder, all right, let's get him in there. Let's put him in with the top 10 guys. So what could come next? I mean, we'll see. Come Tuesday morning, I'm curious to see where he'll move in the rankings, because I just feel like this was his first ranked win, technically, against Serghei Spivac. It was very dominant, as we've seen in all 4 of his UFC fights now. They may launch him in right around that number 10 spot. I'll be curious to see Walt Harris, Blagoy Ivanov ahead of him. And then obviously Chris Daukaus, who I wanted him to fight a while ago when they fought on the same card, but he's fighting Shamil Abdurrahimov. I digress from that fight. So we'll see what happens with Aspinall, but I truly believe in this kid. So young. And damn it, Noah, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say, in the future, this gentleman could become the first English heavyweight champion.
I like those thoughts. The fight that I think should be next for him is the loser of Alexander Volkov and Marcin Tybura, a fight happening.
Ooh.
Forget which pay-per-view it's happening on, but it is one of the
I think it's 267.
Yeah, it's one of those. So the loser of that fight, because I think you get 2 completely different matchups for Aspinall, depending on who loses that fight. Tybura, a bit more grapple heavy, a bit more of a stockier frame. A guy that can make a fight a little ugly, just looks for those ways to win, a bit more higher fight IQ maybe. Volkov going to be a guy that really matches up with Aspinall striking-wise, very technical striker, very long fighter, so the range will be an interesting game for Aspinall to get into. And, I like either of those matchups for him next. Is that definitely a jump up for him? For sure. But it's, I like his mindset. I respect his mindset of like, okay, I'll just want a guy ahead of me.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if I need to see him fight Blagoy Ivanov.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need to see him fight Walt Harris right now. Chris Daukaus is an interesting one, but I'm going to hold off on that one.
Yeah.
Maybe Augusto Sakai, number 9. That's another good one. But I don't know where Sakai truly – I don't know where he challenges Aspinall right now, and that's I just have more – I have a more defined – I guess matchup-wise, there's just more defined – like advantages for Volkov and Tybura if they were to go up against Aspinall. Not to say Sakai doesn't have an advantage in that fight. I'm just saying that these Volkov and Tybura, I could clearly be like, okay, that's where they test Aspinall. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about at this point for me. I just want to see this guy get tested. If he keeps winning fights in this fashion, it doesn't matter. He's going to do this to the title, and then it's going to be like Francis Ngannou. Everybody knows he's not the most technical fighter in the world, but if he knocks you out in 10 seconds, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
So regardless, I like the guy. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I've watched a lot of his videos with MMA on Point, and he's very articulate guy. So I'm rooting for him to, be what we think he can be, and what I'm just resistant to accept, only because I don't want to be wrong and have it blow up in my face. But I do agree with you. He could be the what did you say? The first
English-born heavyweight champion.
Yeah, thank you. So, big performance here from him though, and I didn't realize first top 15 wins. So that's big monkey off the back as well. Also on this main card, this was a fun one. Khalil Roundtree gets the TKO over Modestas Bukauskas, round 2. Also 2 minutes, 30 seconds in. And Dominic, this is one of those fights where, sometimes you see guys throw really hard strikes at one another, and they just don't seem to phase them. A Brad Riddell, Drew Dober fight,
Yeah.
A Fiziev, Bobby Green. They just seem unfazed. This was the opposite of that. Every strike landed hard, and both guys were showing the effects of it. Ultimately, Roundtree does get the win. It's a TKO due to a
the oblique kick.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. That the one that John Jones essentially.
Yeah,
passed.
I know, but he did it to the side of the knee. That's why I wasn't sure. I think I thought it might have a little bit different connotation. But anyways, finishes the fight. Bukowski's knee all messed up, probably.
Yeah.
And this raises the question again, Dominic. I'll let you give your thoughts on the fight, but I think the more important thing that the viewers would like to hear from you is, where do you fall on this argument of, is this a technique that should be banned from professional MMA? Apparently, according to Daniel Cormier, typically practices ban this technique because of just how dangerous it is and how easy it is to, not just cause like a end of a fight, but end of careers.
Injury, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, for Khalil Roundtree, up to 205 pounds in this bout, which was interesting. He really needed a win here to right the ship. He was on a 2-fight skid, and he looked good for the whole fight, man. Looked powerful. Nearly finished the fight early on in the first round, but faced a little bit of adversity as well, eating some shots from Modestas, but for the most part, it was all Roundtree. He looked good, man, and he looked very big, very strong, very filled out at 205 pounds. So good on him for bouncing back off of the skid. In terms of the kick, very interesting, right? Because I don't just want to go out and say, oh, ban it. This guy's knee got destroyed last night. The fight ended, ban it. Because at the end of the day, I just feel like as MMA continues to evolve, we're going to keep seeing these new generations of athletes, and they're going to bring in new evolutions of different techniques. So things are just going to keep getting crazier and crazier, and they're just going to become effective in fights, essentially. So with more evolution of offensive techniques coming in, you got to think, well, there's going to have to be an evolution of defensive techniques to avoid these types of strikes. So I don't just want to go out and say, oh, ban this, because this is the first time we've ever seen this type of kick end a fight anyway. We've seen it utilized plenty by a lot of fighters. Obviously, John Jones was like the first we ever really saw utilize it in his game plan, essentially, when he fought people. But never to the extent of this, where it ends a fight. I think Modestas did suffer some ligament damage in his knee, so for Modestas, I hope you heal up quickly, recover. He's a very bright, talented, young prospect, so especially for the light heavyweight division. So shout out to him as well for being a tough guy. I hope all is well in terms of his recovery. And for the kick, man, again, I don't want to go out and say let's ban it, because we're just going to keep seeing stuff like this for years and years as the sport becomes more broadly accepted. So it's just more on, will we see the defensive techniques to avoid it? Essentially the same thing as like when Dustin beat Conor McGregor. People are like, oh, we got to ban the calf kick. It's too – you just can't do it. As soon as you get hit by it, it numbs your leg. You got to get rid of it. You just got to learn how to defend it, I guess. And again, I'm not a fighter. I would go down in a heartbeat and my leg would be shattered and I'd probably cry literal tears. But I digress. I'm just the guy sitting back here behind the camera talking about it, and that's my 2 cents.
I do think it's a little different than a calf kick. I mean, I think it's more so just from a pure damage standpoint. I mean, this is, if you land it cleanly, it's an ACL tear waiting to happen, But I do agree with you. I don't think this should be banned from MMA. I don't like the idea of banning most things in MMA. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going in there with the attempt to inflict damage on your opponent to win a fight.
Yeah.
Seems a little rudimentary to ban a technique that would do that. But I understand why a guy like Stephen Thompson's a guy who's raised concerns about it, because he had his ACL torn in his fight with Darren Till from this technique.
Yeah.
However, I understand why, he is totally valid to have that opinion. He had a year taken off of his career because of that technique. But I do think it comes down to what you're saying. I think you put it perfectly. It's all an evolution of the game. There are ways to defend this technique. I watched the video last night. Shout out to the Weasel on YouTube. He does a lot of MMA content, where he was showing how in Israel Adesanya's winning the title over Robert Whittaker, how he was able to avoid that oblique kick. And since in order to do the oblique kick, you kind of have to lunge in.
Yeah, make
So
yourself
if you
vulnerable.
miss, makes yourself very vulnerable, and that set up a lot of good offense for Israel in that fight with Whitaker. So that's just an example of it. But you're right. As this time goes by, it's just like with the calf kick in the sense of people are going to find ways to better defend it. They're going to find ways to combat it. Eventually, it might even become, for a time, a not very effective offensive technique anymore because of how much defense is surrounding it. That's just a natural part of MMA. It happens. It comes in waves. But I do understand I think anybody who has a concern about it is valid due to how easy it is, it seems to, even if this is like the first time it's really happened in a fight ending sequence. It's happened a few times just in a fight, but it hasn't ended the fight. But here it was very brutal, I'll admit. However, I can't take anything away from Khalil Roundtree. He looked really good here. Thought it was a very good performance out of him. Brutal one at that. I mean, just the amount of hard hitting shots he was landing, and then to finish a fight like that. There's been some rumors that Khalil Roundtree is going to retire. So if that's the case, then happy retirement to him. But if not, I like the way he looked here, light heavyweight. Wouldn't mind seeing more from him. He looked very big in there. And Modestas Bukauskas, fun fighter, a guy who stands in there and gives it his all, man. But he's just not been able to quite get over the hump, get that big win. I believe he lost to. I want to say he lost to. I can't remember now. I thought it was Kevin Holland, but I could be wrong. He lost to someone back in the fall. Regardless, hopefully he heals up, and I don't know if he'll get another chance in the UFC, but I wouldn't mind it because I thought he hung in there and even landed some of his own good shots. So good fight. Let's talk about some of these guys on the prelims. A lot of good performances on here. Molly McCann and Ji-Yeon Kim had a fight of the night. They were credited fight of the night. Molly McCann got a unanimous decision win over Ji-Yeon Kim. Jack Shore with a dominant performance over Ludwig Sholinian via unanimous decision. And then Julian Arosa and Charles Jourdain had a very fun fight. Those were two guys going in. I wanted to talk about these guys on Friday, but they just didn't have enough to really preview. They're just a couple middling guys, but they're very fun fighters. Charles Jourdain being the one who knocked out Korean Superboy Doo Ho Choi. So Arosa did get the submission win over Jourdain in round 3, 2 minutes 56 seconds. So Dominic got basically this is just kind of open for you to give your thoughts on any big performances that stood out, any big names that stood out, anybody to look out for. I'll just mention, because I know you're going to want to talk about Jack Shore, Molly McCann. This was a must-win for her, in my opinion. She's had a bit of a iffy road here. I don't know if she was on a losing streak coming in.
Yeah.
But it feels like she's had a hard time getting her hand raised in the UFC, and to come in here and have a really fun fight with Ji-Yeon Kim and to ultimately get the win in unanimous decision fashion, I think that was a must for her.
100% agree. Yeah, I mean, she looked good. Very back and forth, deservedly so for fight of the night. And yeah, like you said, a must win. She hadn't won since October of 2019. So Meatball Molly. I just had a big country twang there. I feel like I'm sorry. Came out and they got a big comeback win. Ji-Yeon Kim, very good counter striker as well. So I still think she's got some good fights ahead of her in that division. Jack Shore, can we just take a second? Because this dude is 15-0. 4-0 in the UFC, 12 of 15 wins via finish, and this was a near flawless performance against Ludwig Sholinian. Again, a guy that was coming off tough 29, didn't make it to the finals or anything, but was given a shot here against Jack Shore. And man, Shore, I just want to say it right now, he's ready. We need top 15 next for this kid. Again, when I say flawless, I mean nearly perfect. To see him go in there, everything he does is so calculated and precise, and he's just so calm. And the way that he's known for his grappling as well, but he looked lights out on the feet with very good kicks and His jab was lighting up Ludwig, very crisp, very sharp on the feet. And then his grappling, the way that he transitions, whether it's defensively or offensively, to get the back, to get, lock in a submission, to recognize a submission's not going to work, and then let it go, but get into straight top mount. Everything he did was just A+ last night, or on Saturday, I should say. And I'm a true big-time believer in this kid. Again, he's Welsh, so again, the United Kingdom kind of behind this kid. They've known how good he is. Another former Cage Warriors champion. So they're bringing over a ton of European talent into the UFC, and Jack Shore, he's launched himself into top 15 contention here in this stacked bantamweight division. I think it's time to really launch him in and see him get tested. And then lastly, Julian Erosa, Charles Jourdain, as Noah mentioned, we knew this was going to be a fun fight, right? They just have the styles. They're going to clash, and it's going to be nuts, whatever the fight goes, whether it's on the feet, on the ground. And that's how this was. And I feel like Julian Erosa, this kid is going to face adversity and face troubles in every fight, and then he'll just pull a rabbit out of a hat, and whether it's a KO or a submission, he'll find a way to get the job done. So shout out to Julian Erosa, was in a very fun one. And Charles Jourdain, keep your head held high. It was a fun scrap while it lasted.
Well, more thoughts than I thought we were going to have about those. But no, for sure, Jack Shore, this guy's ready for top 15. Will he get it next? Who knows? But he should. He really should.
Yeah.
I think he's proven he is simply too much for any of these guys that are, kind of outside of the top 15 that are looking to make names for themselves. He is just too much. Here, Ludwig, props to him for taking the fight and for giving it his all. But this was, he styled on him here, and that was really the story. Overall, though, a lot of takeaways from this card, and I'm very happy for that because this was a card that kind of got butchered a little bit. A couple fights got taken off at the last second. And,
yeah.
So it's nice to see that what stuck together here ended up everything. What's going on over there?
I hit my mic 2 times in a row and it kept getting messed up. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just like, are you all right over there? Like,
yeah, I'm good.
But no, that's pretty much it here. It was a great card. I'm glad to see a lot of takeaways, a lot of fighters really standing out. That's what you love to see.
Oh, yeah.
But Dominic, that wraps it up for the MMA Weekend Recap. This Friday will be the next time you see us, but in what capacity, we don't know.
To be determined.
Because ultimately, there is no UFC card this weekend. There's no Bellator card this coming weekend. There's no PFL card this coming weekend.
And we're damn sure not doing a preview show on the Triller Circus. Okay. I just wanted to get that out there. Noah, go ahead. I cut you off, but I had to let it out.
Are you good?
I'm good. Go ahead.
But we're at least going to give you guys, some form of a weekend preview. If there's any fight announcements or news, we will put that into an episode. But since that's not really enough to put an episode on its own, we will do a Reddit roundtable as well. So it will be a form of a, half weekend preview, half special episode Reddit roundtable. So be on the lookout for that. Send your questions, whether comment on, this video, or if you want to comment on our social media post on Instagram, Twitter. If you want to send in a voice message, you can do so. Link in the link trees in our bios. There is a link on there for leaving a voice message through our Anchor page. So do that. That'd be really sick. Or also Facebook. I forgot to mention that. Dominic posts on his personal Facebook. If you're friends with him on there, you can leave questions there as well. Or if you know us, you can text us your questions, whatever. But, make sure to also go support Barely Critical Movie Review Podcast. As I mentioned at the top, we did our first guest appearance on there. Dominic thought that Stitch Duran was dead. He is not dead.
But that is good to know that he is in fact alive and well. So shout out to Stitch the Cut, man.
Yeah,
I got so emotional in that moment, and then you said he's alive. By the way, after the fact, I'm like, huh, all right.
Just funny stuff. But go check out the episode. It was a lot of fun. And Dominic, hit us with the outro.
Find me on Twitter, on Instagram at dslee14. More importantly, go follow, go engage, send in your questions to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast on Twitter, on Instagram at BAJ_MMA podcast. Noah, get them on out of here.
For me, Twitter, Instagram at @ntbaker_. If you go to my bio, there's a link that will lead you to the link tree,
Okay.
which will provide you with a list of links that contain all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for our Anchor page. First, leaving a voice message. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Come on.
Do it. Yeah. Make sure to leave your questions on there. Any thoughts you have about upcoming fights or performances. Do it. And there's a link there if you want to become a supporter of a podcast. If you would like to leave the minimum donation of $1.99
or more,
me and Dominic will strip naked for our OnlyFans page. But again, you can find all that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at @ntbaker_. But with that, we're out, and we'll see y'all on Friday.